to tell you about our awesome partners, Syrah Technology, Gregg Vet Clinic, Hicks Chicks, Kenny Chesney's Blue Chair Bay Rum, and all of our awesome partners that you see on the screen right now. Make sure to do business with them and tell them Miss Lou Champion sent you. Hey guys, Ronnie Calhoun here with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. Got my man Kelly Thomas in the house. What's up, brother?
What's going on, my friend?
How are you, man?
Doing well, doing well.
All right. So for those that don't know Kelly, Kelly's works here at Natchez, works at Natchez High.
Right.
Works with a lot of kids. That's how we really started getting to know each other, talking about different things. But you work with track and field.
Right.
But you do a lot of work with ministry and just kids in general, trying to keep kids on the right path. And
Right.
I think that's really how we bonded over the last couple of years. And of course, Ivory, your girl, what a sweet girl, man. Great person. Let's get started, man. I just kind of wanted to, I wanted to share with our viewers more about who you are, because I think you're doing a lot of great work.
I appreciate that.
Where did you grow up? Did you grow up here?
I grew up here in Natchez. My mom moved around quite a bit. She was a nurse here in Natchez from Jeff Davis, back when it was called Jefferson Davis Hospital.
Okay, that's where I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Community hospital.
Uh-huh.
And then she went back to Natchez Regional, then now Merit Health. And so we moved quite a bit throughout the city, but I'm a product of the Natchez Adams School District. Yeah. And so from there, I went to Alcorn State University.
Okay.
Between Alcorn and high school, I did some military time. And so back then they had a deal where you can do some time your junior year of high school. You do your basic training. After your senior year, you do your AIT, your advanced individual training.
Okay.
And that gave me some opportunities to travel quite a bit, from Fort Lee, Virginia, to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, to Fort Benning in Georgia. So several different places I've traveled with the Army. Then I did some time in the National Guard once I made it to college. And so I made it to Alcorn in about 2000 to about 2005. And after that, I ended up traveling a bit, moved to California, first Florida, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was in Orlando, Florida, worked with Disney World.
Did you really? I was
Man,
just about to make the joke, but I was like, nah, it's too corny to make. But you really did work with. Okay.
I worked, in Orlando, then from Orlando to California. I lived in Chino Hills. It's about 45 minutes outside of Los Angeles, Southern California. And it was there when I started working with children. Got in there and started seeing there's some kids who needed help, mentorship, different deals like that. And so that's where the passion was started at.
Okay. What age kids were you working with over there?
You're looking at about maybe 5 till about 18.
Okay.
Just so inner city at-risk kids, poverty stricken, that had that real bad situations, family broken homes, and they created programming to give kids some options, so they can have something to do after school, so that way they're not taken by gangs or violence or just, robbing, all that kind of stuff the kids lead to when they don't have stuff, man. And so I was one of those counselors that kind of helped out there. But when I played the tape back, I've always done volunteer work, helping with churches and community projects, from working with the Natchez Youth Center when I was in high school, volunteering, doing some summer programming, to I was fortunate enough, one of my neighbors sent me and my older brother to LSU for some enrichment programs over the summer. So that's how I became a fan, a little bit of LSU. Yeah. Just going up there.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers, man. Getting a chance to experience that at an early age opened my perspective to different diversities around the country, because they were having kids coming in from everywhere. So to meet them being a small town kid from Mississippi opened my perspective up a little bit.
So the kids that you were working with in California, was it kids from all backgrounds?
Mainly blacks and Hispanics. Okay. And those were, and you may have had some white kids in there, but there were very few. But those were the ones in those inner cities that were really financially, just poverty stricken, man. And they had pretty rough situations, man. And the community was doing a lot to help them.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for a while then. So that's kind of how you got started working with young people. What happened? Where did you go after that? And where did life take you after that?
So I was in California for a number of years, and I ended up moving back here. Unfortunately, my mom did take sick, and so I came back to help, just some things around the house. And that's when I got back into church this way, and just kind of helping out with the ministry with the younger people there. And then I ended up working at Alcorn State, and then just seeing, like, you had kids who would make it to college, but they still had situations going on. Just because they had, the funding to get to school, there was a lot of stuff that they still needed. So then I became an advocate in that regards, trying to help out so kids can have resources. And so then coming back here, I got a job in the school district. I was volunteering doing Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we went from having 6 kids to 16 kids, standing room only. From there, they wanted me to do something with pep rallies. And so I would come in and I'd just get the crowd hyped up. It was crazy, man. And then from there, they offered me the job to be the dropout prevention coordinator for the school district. And my job was to work with the at-risk youth, the ones that had behavioral issues, attendance issues. I worked with the truancy officer here in the county and just trying to recover kids who just seemed hopeless. And at that time, I started that in 2015. And I would offer hope, just giving them the opportunity that somebody cares about you. And then part of my job was to go around the community to talk to people about what was going on in the school district, so they would know that the school was doing all it can do to help those kids that were in those situations. And we recovered a lot of kids to help them get out of school. A couple of people in the community were giving kids jobs who nobody would hire because they had juvenile records on them. And so, to see those kids graduate, that to me was a fulfillment of purpose, just to see them kind of, smile, but they never thought they would make it that far.
Yeah. We have a couple of, Melissa and I have a couple of those that every time we see them, they'll cry and stuff. And they never believed that they could do it.
Right.
And, but yeah, so you've been at this job is that still the role that you're in now?
Right. Almost 9 years.
Almost 9 years.
Right.
Yeah. Wow, man. Golly, what would you say has changed with kids ever since you've been working with them? Is it still fundamentally the same, or?
The biggest change I've noticed is the introduction of information. They have information poured on them so early with social media and the vastness of the internet, that you'll meet a kid who can pretty much speak at a level but have not the experience. So they're able to tell you a lot, but they don't know a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you got kids who are growing up and things are faster to them. So whereas in our day, we dated a girl, it had to be about 2 years before you realize they'll date 2 weeks. And to them, it's the equivalent of 2 years. Yeah. So their timeline is extremely fast. So when you're talking to them, they have this attitude that they know, but they really don't know. And so that's where you got to try to create that bridge, understand their language, because they're talking so fast and things are happening so fast, but they really don't know what life is bringing them. Emotional language, learning how to speak to the emotion of the child without letting the emotion dictate. And I think that's the biggest change, because whereas we suppressed a lot in our time frame, they express everything. They tell you how they feel, they tell you what's on their mind, and they speak to you as equals, and they don't understand that there is a hierarchy. You have to grow into certain levels of maturity. And it's us who has to kind of bring it down a notch to understand them. And they don't understand us because they feel like they are already on a level with us because of what they've been exposed to. And so doing dropout prevention, I found there were a lot of kids that were forced into roles that they shouldn't have been forced into. So when the time to be a child shows up, it's normally later in life. So they're 15, 16 doing things they should have done at 9 and 10. And so that's the biggest difference I'm seeing. Whereas in my time, we learned how to sweep stuff under the rug. What happened at home stayed at home. And that's where that trauma bond comes from. Well, a lot of people can identify because of their trauma, but it was more so closet trauma versus theirs. Everything's on social media, so they can't hide anything.
Yeah. What do you think are a high percentage of the kids that you work with, are they from single parent homes?
Majority, yes. They're victims of circumstance.
Yeah.
Sometimes the relationship didn't work. Sometimes the male in the relationship did what he had to do, landed him in jail. Sometimes it was a result of just fatalities. And so I'll never forget, we had this one group of families.
So it's not always the dad saying, I'm out of here.
Not always the case.
Yeah,
not always the case. And so when you find out what's going on, you realize that's a factor, but it's not as high as we think it is. Okay. It's more so situational trauma. Those deals where it's a kid who the mom and dad just didn't work. The dad could still be in their life, but not at the capacity that he could be for other circumstances. Yeah.
I see a lot of dads who are good dads out there, who are trying, and that's encouraging. I see a lot of good men out there who are trying to do everything that they can in their child's life. But I think it's important for guys like you because, you know, I mean, you've been through Natchez. You walked down the same halls that they walked down.
Exactly.
And you're still young enough that you're cool. You know, you're not the old dude that's saying get off my lawn and all of that. So I think it's important that people like you step up and reach out for the kids and try to help. What's the difference between is there a huge difference between like male and female that you see?
Yes. The biggest difference is the males really don't have a quote unquote standard to look up to. Whereas the females, you see more females in society, more black, especially if you're looking at the numbers here in Natchez. The single parents, is more moms in place, and they may not be quote unquote the traditional mother, but they don't really have male figures to really look up to that are consistent. Consistency is where the gap is. And so if we can develop some type of consistent mentorship deal and it all seems to fall on one person. And I think that what happens a lot of times, everybody's trying to live their life, not realizing that somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb. Nobody wants to give up their life for, you know, these kids. And the reality is part of it is just showing up. And so for me, what that looked like was finding different ways to reach them. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And so within confines of trying to develop my own personal life. And God told me like this when I was working, like I said, I lived in Orlando, Florida. And not only did I work at Disney World, I worked for customer service. I worked at this account called Full Circle, and that's where we dealt with retention, you know, for Sprint, Nextel at that time, Novartis Pharmaceutical. And so my job would be to retain customers. And he said, you treat it like triage. You help as many as you can, but don't get attached.
Yeah.
And with the children, if you get attached, you could get let down real easily. And when I say attached, I mean you pouring too much of yourself into it.
Yeah.
You do what the job requires. You give what you can give, but you don't want to give to the point to where you're depleted, where you can't give to the next kid.
Yeah.
And so with where I was at the time in the district, there was a lot of violence in there. And so you had kids who fell, you know, unfortunately we lost some. But if you were attached, it would have pulled you out of it. When I say attached, I mean you gave too much compassion to where it pulled a part of you out of there. And so I'm learning how to give of myself, but not give to the point to where I don't have anything left for me. And I think that's the line that people don't want to cross a lot of times because they give so much up front to where it burns them out. And you have to be mindful of that because burnout is a real thing. There's a thing called compassion fatigue. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
And when I was reading about compassion fatigue, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people.
I'm just over here soaking in what you're saying right now. Yeah.
A lot of people are facing that because they're overly compassionate when it's not compassion they need, it's consistency. Compassion helps, but you have to be able to do what you need to do and then allow them room to develop. Because there are going to be some letdowns, there's going to be some disappointment, there's going to be some moments where they don't measure up, but you got to be consistent and you have to stay with it. And so that's the challenge I've seen over the last few years. I've been working with the children and the students, trying to get them to understand the importance of why we do what we do.
Yeah, that's strong, man. That's very good. Let me see. I was thinking of something I was going to say. You said something a while ago. Well, let's jump to this real quick. That what I learned whenever I started teaching, whenever I came in, looking back at how silly it was now that I've grown, I was like, I'm gonna tell these kids. I was thinking I was gonna be this tough guy, and I'm gonna be strict and this and that. And it didn't take me long to realize that a lot of the kids don't necessarily need me to come down on them.
Right.
They get come down on enough
already.
And thank God that I had the wisdom to see that and stop myself and say, wait a second, you're never going to reach these kids by using a one technique approach.
It's not cookie cutter at all.
It's not cookie cutter. That's kind of where I'm getting at. What I realized was every kid is different. If you've got 30 kids in a room, you almost have to teach every one of them differently because some of them you can come down on. And they're going to respond, and then some of them you'll break them if you come down on them.
Exactly.
Do you find that with what you do?
When I was working at Alcorn, I was a residential dorm director. I was over where the students lived at. And they came to me and wanted me to work in this program called Freedom School, which is a literacy program designed to help inner city at-risk kids. And they brought them to the rural communities because reading was a huge area of problems for the just that's for lack of a better term, for the Black community, the Black and the Hispanic community. And so they wanted to bring materials that was accommodable to where they are. So if I'm growing up in quote unquote a harder area in a small town, me reading about Huckleberry Finn is not going to spark my interest, right? So they had their Black authors and authors of the Hispanic community that were writing books about how they grew up, that the kids would take interest in reading. But while we were there, we learned that kids don't learn by row anymore. We understand that the teaching model came from that old Carnegie structure back when they were teaching people to work in rows for factories. Well, since the factories left, they had to figure out a way to reach the kids. And so in their Freedom School structure, we sat in what you call the round. And so that way everybody's on the same level. And so that way we went around the room, we created the culture for the classroom, and the kids came up with the rules. So, and then they had to sign this agreement. And so if they make the rules and they break the rules, they're only letting themselves down versus the rules I set. So they know then that, hey, this is what I said I would do. So when they're in violation, you say, hey, Ronnie, you agreed to this. You signed here. So you agreed to this infraction. And the kids were more adaptable to that. And so they were less likely to break the rules. And so what I've learned is that you have to create a space where the information can be dispersed, but you know the level of each kid that can receive that information. And I think that's the issue our schools face, because the teacher-student ratio is off. You know, really and truly it's supposed to be 10-1, at max 12-1. But you got 30-1, you got 28-1. And then you got those kids that are disruptors. And then when you find out why they're disrupting, you find out a lot of kids are disrupting because they can't comprehend the information. You're finding a lot of kids that are in these seats, and because of the curriculum that the public school issues and mandates, a lot of kids can't keep the pace. And so you have to learn how to move within that system to really give the help. And when they come out of school, educators, they're not taught for that. They learn a certain set of information. So by the time they graduate, they're walking into a classroom they're not prepared for. I learned this in school, but this is what I'm dealing with. And so you have to learn to become adaptable.
That's hammer on the nail.
And so you've been in the classroom, you know, and so like you said, you come in with this one attitude and you don't realize little Jimmy don't eat when he get home. You realize little Tate is struggling with gender identification because he was molested. You don't know this, but they're coming to school with a barrage of problems. And here you go, you're taught this one curriculum, but I got to do it this way. I'm supposed to be at this. That's only if the circumstances are ideal. And so what I've learned is that my position created a place for adaptability to meet those kids where they are, to recover students who gave up on the system, and to have a level of compassion without pouring too much. And that's what I've learned a lot of people do. They pour too much. And you have to be sensitive with how much you pour, that you can still allow consequences to have the full effect. And sometimes we get too compassionate because of the circumstance. We overlook the consequence. And so we tread a thin line, because you really want to be effective, but you want to be in the same space, given what you're supposed to do at the same time. So it's interesting. It's an interesting line to toe once you know which way you're going with it.
I tell people that it's it's an art. It's not a science, it's an art.
That's it. That's it. And you learn and you lose some battles, you win more, but the losses you take are learning mechanisms. That way you learn what I need to do different next time.
And I try to not look at them as losses, because I try to look at them as when I work with kids. Well, when I work with kids, I view it as planting seeds.
Okay, I like that.
I look at it as planting seeds and giving them tools. Those are the two visualizations that I use. And I'm like, I'm not trying to teach you what to do in your life. I'm trying to give you tools to think
what to use,
and then which tool do I use in what situation. Because I'm not going to be there to tell you what to do all the time. Who knows if I'm right? So we all need to be able to learn how to think.
Like that.
So always like, just because I lose today and they made a bad decision today doesn't mean that seed's not still in there 5 years down the road.
Right, that's good.
And that seed might grow when they decide to start watering it down the road. I have had kids that I didn't have a whole lot of hope for, that I see now, And I'm like, wow, dude,
See, that's
really
what
turned it on, you know?
I always live by the mantra, I never know who people will become.
Yeah.
So I'm always careful with how I treat people. Just because they meet, you know, what's the word I want to use? Maybe a little rough around the edges now.
Yeah.
That may be the same kid to help you out. Because I was that kid. And see, that's another piece that, like I said, what happened at home stayed at home. I tell my story. I let people know that inside my mom was a great person, and she's going to be with the Lord now. But she instilled with us certain values. She taught us how to press through certain things. The amount of abuse that we saw as children was not it. If there was a social worker system in place back then, I would probably be taken from them. You know, but I've learned to recognize certain disparities. I've learned to recognize certain, you know, abuse levels. I can tell when a kid is doing too much because they're really insecure. I can tell when a kid has become pulled off. And sometimes all it takes is for you to acknowledge a kid who walks by you every day. You don't know, hey man, you give him a little fist bump. Hey man, I see you. Right,
man, that's
And then all of a
mine
sudden,
was champion day.
That's it. And you plant little seeds like that. And so what happens is your presence liberates others.
Yeah.
You showing up gives them the courage because you've acknowledged them. You let them know that they are seen. And I had a kid who was dealing with some real bad insecurities. And he was talking of suicide. And I had to let him know. He said, why would God put me in this situation? And I said, well, I'm going to be honest with you. God gave us free will. You're probably the product of choices that made before you. You can make a choice to be different.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll show up for you if you show up for me.
Yeah.
He said, what do you mean show up for you? I need you here because I have to have somebody to show up for.
Yeah.
And so he looked and he said, you know what? I like that. So, but you got to be here, Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
I need that check at the end of the month. I'll be here. So I show up for him, and now he's coming. And so he comes and asks me awkward questions, and I have those conversations with him. Brief little dialogue. Doesn't take no more than 2 minutes sometimes. But you're changing the trajectory of a child when you do that.
Yeah.
You're like you said, you're seed planting. And you never know where life will carry somebody. There was a young man who was from Natchez. He's in D.C. He works with children, doing a great job from what I've read about him. But he was a troubled kid. They was going to throw him away. He had robbed a Pizza Hut man on a delivery, ended up in juvenile, moved away. Now he created a whole nonprofit organization for children that were just like him. But if we had given up on him, threw him away, you never know what he'd become. So now you become a change agent because of the issues that happen in your life. And so when you don't give up on them, you never know what impact you're having on them until you see the full blossom that comes out of that seed that's been planted. So that's why I do what I do. That's why I have the patience I have, because I look at this little kid and like, one day he might have to help me across the street. One day he might, I never know.
Yeah.
And so I can't just dismiss them so soon. But they'll always remember the kindness that you've shown them, the time that you spent with them. So that's why that's another reward within itself.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to the old saying, people may not remember what you told them, always remember what you told them, but they will always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's, I would like to think that any kid that I've taught anywhere, I would like to think that they would say, hey, Mr. Ronnie was a kind dude.
Impact you left.
He was a kind person. Whether he knew what he was talking about or not, who knows? But he was kind to me.
Right.
That's the most important thing to me.
Good.
Another thing I just wanted to see if you agree on this was something that I learned whenever I first started getting into working with kids is, man, the kids these days, you can't BS them, man. They know, their instincts are so good. They've been BS so much in life.
They can tell.
You can't come in and tell them, oh, this and that. They can, I guess they can sense real and fake.
Well, I always say this, never forget when you were a child.
Yeah.
When we were younger, I don't know when you came out of school, but they called us Generation X.
Yeah.
They were ready to throw us away. They said we weren't going to be this. We weren't going to be that. Teen pregnancy was at an all-time high. Drugs were in the community at an all-time high. Gang violence, you had the Crips, the Bloods, the Vice Lords, gangster, whatever, all that stuff was going on. But you never know who's going to be who. And so
that's right.
You play the tape back, you remember those guys in the community or those women in the community that said little things to you, that were kind to you. You knew the fakers. You know the ones who were just talking and just, talking at the side of their neck.
Yeah.
Action speaks louder than words. And a lot of times kids are good judges of character because they know at the end of the day what it looks like because they live in it. And see, when you live with people who make empty promises, oh, I'm gonna take you to the movies, or your dad's gonna come, and you're waiting, looking out the window, and dad never shows up.
Yeah.
You learn to recognize those falsities early on, and so I know I prided myself on never forgetting what it was like to be a child. I'm talking about the good, the bad, the ugly, the in between. So I know how I felt the first time I looked at a girl and got emotions. The first time I tried to share them and they laughed at me. I know what rejection looked like. And so when I see it in the kids, I'm able to identify with them. I know what it is to share personal information and have it leaked out. So I know what that looks like. I remember what it felt like. So I know how they feel to a degree. So I'm able to be a little more sensitive when I come to them in those areas. And they confide in me quite a bit because they know the information they share won't be repeated again. And you have to share those little nuggets with them so they'll be able to know, you know what, I can trust Mr. Ronnie.
Yeah.
Or I don't need to tell Mr. Ronnie nothing because he in his teacher's lounge telling all my business, because how does Miss Jenkins know what I did when I can't crown on his shoulder? You know, so they learn to recognize that early on. We're talking second and third grade. And my memory goes all the way back to those days because those were some of the harder times in my personal life. And it took, you know, teachers like yourself to take the time to really adjust. And watch this. I had a teacher put me on detention and had to take me home at the same time. She let consequences do his job, but then she realized there was something bigger going on. Why do I have to take you home? Not that you had to, because she could have called CPS, she could have did what she needed to do, but she saw my mother needed help. She saw, and so needing help don't mean you blow the spot up on the language the kids speak. Needing help could be, I just can't get him home, but I don't want to deprive him of an opportunity. And so that's where people like you and myself step in at. And that's where that extra come in. You know, we've had to buy shoes. We've had to buy clothes for kids. We had to buy soap. We had to buy towels. We have to do all these little things. We have to send kids home with care packets because of the deficit that's in the home. And if the community knew that, how widespread it was happening, I think they would have a different opinion about the public schools.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's what I work. You know, I try to do everything I can to try to promote the positives in the public schools.
That's it.
I know that we all have our flaws, but I mean, there's no schools in the country that doesn't have flaws.
Exactly.
We just have to focus on the positives. We have to address the negatives. We have to address the issues, but let's focus on the positives and build on those. But I like so much that you're saying. I like what you're saying about let the kids make the rules. One of the other things that I learned was something that I kind of stole it from Nick Saban. I watched him in a video and he was talking about this and I was like, man, that's genius. But what he was talking about was with his football team, he sits down with them and instead of him saying, this is what I want from you, he says, what do you want for yourself?
That's it.
Then whenever they do something that goes against that, instead of him chewing them out and saying, I told you to do this, he says, hey, you told me that you wanted this for yourself.
You shift that responsibility.
It puts that responsibility on them.
That's good. That's good.
And I'm a big believer that kids will rise or fall to your expectations. If you set them low, they're going to come to you. But if you set them high, they're also going to come to you.
That's it.
So it's up to us to set those expectations for them.
That's good.
And then another thing, and I don't want to beat up teachers or anything like that, but I think the teachers in a hard spot because, especially your core teachers, because they get so much pressure about test scores and this and that. And like you said, they weren't always taught how to handle these traumas and stuff like that. They're not psychologists. They're just taught how to teach this core curriculum or whatever. You know? They might touch on it, but that's not what they specialize in. And, you know, a lot of the teachers would say, you know, some of them would say, Mr. Ronnie, I don't know what you're doing, but you're really reaching them and you're doing a great job. And some of them, it was almost like they were like, well, they're just responding to you because you're a male. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the easy way out. You know, to me, I'm like, that's kind of the easy way out. Like, they're not just responding to me. Maybe that helps, but I'm also showing them the respect and that I care about them.
That's an interesting deal because it is a dichotomy because you're having kids who don't have a male figure at home.
Yeah.
And so in foreign cultures, when a baby's born, they bring the baby to the father. And the father immediately speaks to the baby what his purpose will be.
Yeah.
They start assigning purpose at birth. And so they notice a lot of babies when they're crying, when they hear that man tone, the crying stops. And they say, you will be doctor, you will be computer engineer, you will be, and they keep saying it. The mothers are nurturers by nature.
Yeah.
The men are the thinkers by design. The reality is when they hear your voice, they do respond different.
Yeah. I think that's true. Yeah.
And so with the women, they're trying to be, they think it's in the tone. And it's not in the tone, it's in the presence.
Yeah.
Because what happens is they see them, they're used to being, like you said, they're used to being talked to a certain way.
Yeah.
And so when they get a female teacher, they respond accordingly because guess who's the female teacher at home? Mama.
Yeah.
Where's daddy? And he's in and out. There's a lot of different, different deals going on there. So those that have both parents respond a little bit different. But like you said, the approach has to be synonymous, meaning that if I'm consistent in how I deliver, but at the same time, understand there has to be a diversity in which I deliver. That means I become adaptable to each situation. So I may have a general setting. This is what what the assignment is. But I know I got several apples in there that just not really ready for, whatever I'm given. So now I have to individualize those things. And I think that's what the struggle is with those teachers. That's why I say I applaud every teacher for their patience, for their ability to sit in moments, because at one point my job involved me just coming in and out. So I come into a classroom, I can rock the class, but I'm gone.
Yeah.
I'm not there when they're throwing the paper, when they're being disrespectful, or when this happened and that happens, but the teacher is. And so now the teacher has had to wear many hats.
Yeah.
And to me,
that they're not necessarily prepared for.
And it's like on the job training. So if I could have changed anything in any spectrum, it would be my teachers get $100,000 minimum salary. Let's incentivize our teachers as much as we can, because they wear a lot. They take home a lot, especially our babies, because they're seeing broken children and they have to have a different level of patience. And when I go to elementary schools, I'm a firm believer it does start at the K level, because now you got babies whose parents are still younger and still trying to adapt to the course of the world for bad decisions they may have made, or just the way the outcomes are. Trying to raise children, father is incarcerated, jail, maybe ran away, you don't know what the deal is. Stress of life, feeling in that, you still got to process your feelings. On top of that, you got to feed these babies. And so it's like, okay.
Piles up.
Yeah. And so now here comes the teacher. You supposed to be the teacher. You supposed to neck rolls, you get all this. And I'm like, I can't teach because your child's a distraction.
Yeah.
And so then when you get to the root of it, you go, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were dealing with all that. And so now that's why I say my hat goes off to them.
Yeah.
Because they deal with a lot in the course of a day. You call in principals who, quote unquote, seem to have all the answers and they don't. Then you call on the superintendent that seems to have all the answers, they don't. Nobody has all the answers. But I think working together, encouraging one another, let them know, hey, Ronnie, I see what you're doing in the classroom. Hey, man, I got a $25 gas card. If I'm an administrator, hey, good job. And I don't have to blast that. I don't have to. And then you got to think about the teacher.
Yeah.
You got a life too.
Yeah.
You have struggles. You have relational issues. You have all kind of stuff going on. But yet you have to take that hat off and put on your teacher hat and deal with little Tommy and his problems. So that's why I say my hat goes off, my heart goes off.
You have all these problems coming at you.
Yes, it's a barrage of issues.
The only thing that I ever told teachers was that I'm a firm believer on the tone that you set in the room.
Yep.
I'm just not a big sit down and shut up guy. I just think that you're going to lose them at that point. I think, when they come in the room and when they leave the room, they have to know that you're there for them, and it's hard. It's a balance. But like I said, I would champion day, coming in the room, champion day, champion day, champion day. When they left, champion day, champion day, champion day. And I wanted my room to be sort of that safe space that kids talk about these days. And that's some of your old school teachers, like my teachers, were to sit down and shut up. But we were a different generation too.
Right.
We were.
You came to the majority.
We would sit down and shut up.
Yeah. You knew the ones who had the issues, but now it's like if you got 240 kids, maybe 210 got issues. That's documented.
Yeah.
And so one of the deals I wanted to speak to, have a meeting tomorrow. I'm gonna be talking to some of my staff members, faculty members about is the reality. If we got 240 kids, 211 are in poverty situations. That's a huge number.
Yeah.
And we're graduating over 90% of those kids. That's a huge hat off to the work that's being done. And so to me, to be able to adjust with all of that is accomplished because it's not easy. And that's the piece that I think the public don't see, that it's not easy. And then we, like I said, we create different avenues to reach them, and within the confines of living your life. Because you can't just be Superman for everybody. Like there's a show that says Waiting for Superman. And in our time, he's not showing up like that. He shows up in individuals, but he's not showing up like rescuing kids up out of ghetto homes. No.
Yeah.
So you have to be creative in how you reach them. And that's what I speak to, the creativity part.
And those core teachers, I would tell them, because they would get frustrated. And I think it's what you said a while ago, it's sharing the knowledge. Because I would tell them, like, look, I would be horrible in a core class. I couldn't teach. I'm a terrible teacher. I couldn't teach English, math, and all of that stuff. But I understand kids, and they're great at that, but maybe they're struggling with that. So it's like working together to,
Right.
some of them help me in the classroom, and they're like, hey, do this. And then I would help them understand, hey, just take that tone down a little bit with them. Especially, I would go say, hey, this kid's really got a lot going on right now. You may not know about that, but he's got a lot going on. And I'll leave it at that. He just needs more of a pat on the back than a kick in the butt right now. And there was a lot of teachers that really started kind of saying, man, I started approaching him differently after you told me that. And we've really started bonding now.
Yeah, I had a teacher tell me, you want me to stop what I'm doing to address one kid. I said, I stop what I'm doing every day to address one kid at every school, in every class. I said, if it's too much, I won't trouble you again.
Yeah.
I'll just figure out another way, because I'm not there trying to disrespect what you do.
Yeah, they're doing an amazing job.
So when I said that to him that way, he looked at me and he said, you're the first person to acknowledge that we do a lot. I said, well, I don't want to be the first person. I want to be one of the ones that respect what you do and let you know I see what you do. And so if it's mid-month, I can understand you saying that to me. I'm not here to fight against you.
Work together.
We're fighting with each other.
Yeah.
So if I can make a deal to show up, just let me have him when I come. And the whole goal is to get him to where he can do what you ask of him.
Yeah.
And that he knows he has a place for his problems. And that's what we become. That's when they brought the social workers on to come in. And so to meet a kid head on, I see you with dirty clothes at 7:30 in the morning. Guess what? You come to my office, we can change them, send you to class and put some fresheners on you, and you smelling good, wipe under your arms, get you ready for the day, because you don't know what a kid has to go through before they show up. And you got 20-some kids in your class and he's back there cutting up, give me a call.
Yeah.
Every time he acts up. Because after the first time, I promise you, because sometimes you have to be firm, but you have to be firm a certain way. And you can't be what they had at home. Hollering and yelling is what they used to. Sometimes they just need to be told, like you said, they're champion. Sometimes they need to be told, you're actually worth something.
Yeah.
You're pretty amazing. You know what? You're pretty awesome. So
and it's that gas pedal. You got to know when to push it down and when to pull it off. And that's very difficult. And that's why sometimes guys like us will beat ourselves up a little bit. Like, man, I shouldn't have pushed him so hard, or I should have pushed him harder. Or,
that's why, like I said, that compassion pour.
Yeah.
You got to know when I did my part.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's like triage. You help who you can, but you don't get attached.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure you're helping.
Yeah.
Versus just letting somebody slide through your fingers. Nah, you want to touch everyone in the right way and make sure you're pouring in just enough to get what they need, because there are other people pouring too.
Yeah.
And so it's a delicate, I may not be wording it right. Or whatever,
yeah, I'm feeling it.
It's real.
Yeah, I feel it.
It's an interesting space.
We still got a few minutes left. I know you got Bible study this evening, so I don't want to keep you all evening, but let's talk about that. We'll talk about sports and faith. Kind of, you could separate them out if you want to, or talk about them together, however you want to do it. But what role do you think that each of those play in kids' development?
Well, to me, faith implies hope. And so with sports, you give them something to look forward to, something to hope for. So if I got a kid that's got a bad deal and he's a pretty fast runner, and the situation happened last semester, kid got into some trouble. He got sent to our ombudsman school at the time we had it. And when you're at that school, you're not allowed to do extracurricular.
But I knew he had a lot going on, and the streets would take him, smoking, gang banging, whatever. So I said, you're more than welcome to come out. It's a public track. You're more than welcome to come out here, and I'll offer some suggestions to you. It's basically saying, hey, you come under this umbrella, man. We're going to make sure. He looked forward to coming, and he came to practice every day, even though he knew he would never participate in the actual event. And so to me, the hope was knowing that you're a part of something and that eventually in time you'll be able to participate. And it takes you away from that negative option that you had, even though you made a negative choice. And so you still have to face the full weight of your consequences. But at the same time, there's a hope for something greater, which is participating in the event. That's particularly why I came into coaching, because I wanted to figure out a way to be an option for them outside of just working. And so when the opportunity opened itself up, I just went inquiring and said, hey, would you want to be a coach? I said, let's see, I ran track in high school, ran track in college, pretty good at running in the military. I know some things about it. So, and my 9th grade year, we won the indoor state championship. And my senior year, we won the indoor state championship. So I know what it takes to win a championship. So let's go and do this for these kids. Let's instill what it takes to win a championship so they'll know the level of work it takes. At the same time, creating a space for them to come to so they can hope to achieve something. And so we started off, like I said, the program that was kind of fading a little bit. It didn't have the kick that it once had. We started bringing the kick back. All of a sudden, when trials showed up, you had anywhere from 100 to 120 kids interested in running.
Wow.
And so it
It's a big
created
number.
space for
Yeah.
yes, indeed. And then you start finding kids who have talent. You start finding kids who have great talent. And so I had one kid, he came out and he wanted to be a cheerleader. No problem at all. But I told him, with the ability that you have, you can leave your name on this school. What does that mean, coach? That means that you are great and you don't even know it. And so when I said that to him, he was like, wow. I said, yes, you have greatness. Like Les Brown said, there's greatness in you.
Yeah.
And so when I told him he had greatness in him, I started, focusing in on that. That's where the faith comes in. That you have to believe that what you're doing is going to produce something, even though you don't know what's going to happen. And so we started developing those talents. And then before long, he was the top 10 hurdler in the state. And then he became the top 2 hurdler. Now he's the number 1 hurdler in our state. And I believe he won the Junior Olympics this past summer in the 110 hurdles. And so just to have a kid like that.
Can we say his name? Give him a shout out?
Markeith Thompson, of course. He's a senior this year, but I wish nothing but the best for him.
Yeah.
And so I have another kid, Derek Hawkins. He got number 2 in the 100-meter dash. Started running track, didn't even know he could run. We just sent Madison Jackson. She's going to Kahoma Community College, looking to go do a bigger school.
Yeah,
she
I know
was
Madison.
Yeah. She came out there, and she's one of those hard workers that we worked to help develop. I worked with Moody from over here.
Jalen, my boy Jalen,
Yeah, just working and partnering with Eddie Ray with his summer track program. I funneled a lot of kids that way because I wanted them to understand, to get better, you have to put the work in.
Yeah. And
so the hope comes that now, you can run at another level. And so that's how I think the two intertwine, knowing that with the work based with faith, I believe I can. So now my work comes with it. The scripture says faith without works is dead. It's not only good enough to hope, but also to have the work behind it. And so being the coach helped me see that there's some talent hidden up under all the negativity. So we started tracking kids that had real issues going on, and track became a safe space for them. And so even with my girls, we placed 5th overall boys in the state, and the girls placed 7th. But you're talking about a group who, at one point, you only had individual placements. Markeith also dominated the long jump. He said, Coach, I want to try the long jump. Went to Brookhaven. Now, his record is set at Brookhaven for jumping 23.2, 23 feet. And you haven't seen a 23-foot jumper in quite some time.
Wow.
And so now he's looking at the triple jump. He's got his size set on different things. And so you got a guy running the 10.8 and 100, Derek Hawkins. You got we sent 2 girls called Ariel Anderson, triple jump. She was leading the state last year in the triple jump, 39, almost 40-foot jumper. She's going to USM, already taken off. And so we had some great kids who, my thing was always to just let them be great. And I figured that greatness would speak for them. So I wasn't just trying to make a name for myself. So I wouldn't run into the Democrat. I wouldn't run into trying to say, hey, look at what we're doing. I figured the work would speak for itself, and it has. And so this year we did like a little baby trial to see where we at. We had almost 90 kids show up for indoor track.
And so we're developing a middle school program. We just participated in the state meet November 2nd, this past weekend. Took about 7 boys up there to participate in the state, and they fared fairly well. But just to say that we made it to the state, and it's something that hadn't been happening consistently in the last few years, speaks volume to these kids being a part of something that's moving in a positive direction. And that was the aim, to build a desire that you can hope to become more, but you have to put the work in.
That's funny, man. I'm pretty sure I shared this story with you too. Is going back to Jalen. I had Jalen in my class in 7th and 8th grade, and I would always take my class to LSU every year because I was like planting the seed.
Right.
We'd take a field trip. I'd just let them walk around campus. I'd show them different things. We would just spend the day, and my hope was to plant that seed for college. I was hoping maybe the guys would see some pretty girls and be like, that's why I want to get, because that's what I did. I was like, well, that's why I want to go to college.
Right.
And I'm like, by any means necessary, whatever
it takes to get you.
Whatever it takes. But in all seriousness, I wanted people to just see the maturity of people walking around, going to class, and explain to them, nobody's making them go to class. They're adults and this and that. But one day we were over by the track, and they were running, and we were all over there. And one of the track coaches said, hey, where are you guys from? We said, Vidalia. He said, y'all want to come around here? So we went around and hung out for a few minutes, and a couple of guys spoke to us and this and that. But Jalen was one of them. And a few years later, at that point, Vidalia didn't even have a track team. A few years later, Vidalia has a track team, and Jalen is running state on that same track that we were at, and he blew everybody out and won first place in state on that same track that we were at. And it was like, man, none of us knew, because Vidalia didn't even have a track team. And then you were saying that you were saying you worked with him, and I'm like, man, it's just funny how the world works.
They would come over there, and I said, hey, where's y'all coach? Oh, we just come over here on our own, because Madison was training with me.
Yeah.
And, that's Raven's daughter, Alfred's niece.
Yeah.
And so she came over and started training, and then she brought some of the guys from Vidalia over. And I'm going to be honest with you, my aim is to help any kid that I can help. I don't care if they went to Vidalia, Delta Charter, AC, Cathedral. Me and Coach Tommy work well together.
Yeah.
I want what's best for the child. And so I said, hey, y'all jump in workouts with us. So they started working out with us, because running with people faster helps you run. And it pushed Jalen. So he pushed some of my runners that DeMarco Blanton, phenomenal runner. Went to Southwest, and now he's looking at going to school in Nevada, furthering his football career. It's little things like that. Delta Charter came over there. Working with Delta Charter, who knew that Madison Grover would transfer to Natchez High her senior year? Unfortunately, our senior, Ariel, she was such a phenomenal jumper, but she scratched in the district. So she didn't qualify for the triple jump. But Madison Grover did.
Yeah.
She was the number 2 triple jumper in the state. And her and Ariel went 2 and 3 in the long jump in the state. And so, but who knew?
Yeah.
Ariel still solidified her scholarship, but Madison ended up becoming a great athlete as well, but she came from Delta Charter. Yeah. And so let's say I had an attitude, no, you can't practice while we were practicing and all that. But at one point I was, those other coaches would sit back and watch how we would do it, and I would put them in groups, and I would assign student leaders. Because to me, like Markeith, he's a phenomenal hurdler. There's little things he has to work on, but he has enough knowledge to teach others. So why not do some peer learning?
Peer teaching, yeah.
And so what happens now is you can assign groups, and you can sit back and facilitate, and you go and check and see what each group is doing. So I had kids from Vidalia, Cathedral, AC, Delta Charter, all on the track at the same time, training together, not trying to outrun each other, not trying to compete against each other, but working together. Owen Burleson. Owen didn't even know he could sprint. He thought he was just an old distance runner. But he's a phenomenal kid, phenomenal athlete. I had a chance to work with him. And so just little things like that, to me, is what speaks to faith. Yeah. Because I never thought it would grow to be that big. And now you got all these kids working together in the community that, quote unquote, is so divided.
Yeah.
And so when you see that coming out, and see, that's why I said,
I don't buy it, man.
I'm telling you, it's crazy when you see. And see, that's what I like about the children. When you look at them, there's hope there.
Yeah.
there's hope that there's going to come a time where everybody works together. Everybody is not so divisive. It's not about black and white. It's about the overall goal of the kid maximizing their potential, getting the best out of their ability, and furthering their lives. And that's what you want to do, is leave an imprint on them in that regard, not only just in dropout, not only just working with kids who may have some disparities, but also kids who are just great kids. Like I worked with Chase Ganberry. He was doing hurdles one year, and he was over there, and he looked like he was struggling. I said, do you mind if I make some recommendations? His mom was so excited that we shaved seconds. I'm talking about after one practice, he shaved about 6 seconds. And you know, in track, that's an eternity.
Yeah.
He shaved 6 seconds off his time from just small workouts we were doing. And she was like, how did you do that? And I said, well, he did all the work. He just listened, though. If you get their ear, you'll get a chance to develop, and create what I call little monsters that can come out there and just dominate. And so the whole goal is to create more champions, to create more Marquise, to create more Derek Hawkins, more Jalen Moody's, more Chase Ganberries. We want to create kids that may compete against each other, but at the end of the day, they know what it is to be a champion. So that's my goal.
I love that, man. And to just touch really quickly on what you said, it's not about black or white, just on a larger scale in this area, something that I really try to talk about, man, is, look, I don't have my head in the sand. Right. I know that my theory is we got 10% over here that are crazy and 10% over here that are crazy. But 80% of the people, we all get along. We all want the same things. Right. And I tell people, I work with too many people who don't look like me. That's right. And then grow up in the same neighborhood as me. I work with too many people. Me and you hang. This isn't our first time to hang. Right. We hang, the Robbies of the world and stuff like that. I'm like, I know too many people like you that are working with kids that don't look like you. And I know too many people like me that are working with kids that don't look like me. And we're all doing this together. And I'm like, so I try to tell people, don't act like that we're all not getting along, because we're out there making progress. That's right. And we need to talk about the progress that's happening. That's right. And stop giving the people who don't want progress. Let them, what you feed will grow, and what you starve out will die. And we need to starve that mentality out and feed the mentality of, look at what we're doing. Look at what we're doing. Forget what they're saying. Don't matter. That's irrelevant. That's ignorance. Let's talk about the people that are working together to grow this thing. And that's the beauty of it. I helped some white girls high jump, triple jump, and just showing them techniques. And their dad walked up to him. I didn't even know who he was really, because he was just, because to me, it comes from a pure place. Yeah. I'm not looking for fame in that regard. Yeah. I just want the kids to be able to maximize their potential, so they'll know the proper structure. And so even when I had a couple of my runners that were getting ready to go to college, Jadarius Nelson, phenomenal distance runner. Yeah. Him and Joshua Poole. I sent him to Cathedral to run and practice with Coach Tommy over the summer. Yeah. Well, Poole is still with me. Got him for the indoor outdoor season. So we're gonna try to get the most out of him. But Jadarius goes to Tougaloo College. Goes to Tougaloo, had some little hiccups at first, but because he was constantly running, he's now the number 2 runner in the SWAC. Wow. Number 1 runner on his team. Now they're competing in the national championship this weekend. Nice. And he's a product of the Natchez program. And to me, that's what you want. You want to see kids, but it wasn't just me. Coach Tommy had his hand in there. Yeah. And so when you know that you got people that are sharing in the wealth, I think you give flowers while they're here, so they'll know that it's not just Coach Kelly over there. It's a collective of people that's willing to work together. Coach Tommy has called me over several times. Hey, can you help my sprinters? I don't know much about this. And I said, well, I'll work with your sprinters. I'll send my distance runners to you. Yeah. And here we are on 2 different ends of the spectrum. And so you squash all that extra. And people might not, from outside, may not know that y'all work together. They'll never know. Yeah. Then when you get to a track meet, you see us embracing, and you'll see my team sitting under the cathedral tent, and the people are eyes are squinting. What's going on here? Because what you don't know is that what we did in private is showing up publicly. Yeah. And to me, that's the win. That's the goal. I'm like you. What you focus, you give attention to. And so I'm not focusing on what's not working. I'm not focusing on the negative or the fact that Natchez is wherever it's at. Yeah. I'm looking toward where we're going. Yeah. And to me, that's what it takes faith to know that you're building bridges where there were once nothing. That's it. Man, I tell people, we're moving forward. Yeah. With or without you. If you don't want to move forward, you keep over there on the sideline and do what you got to do. But we're moving forward. There's a lot of us that are moving forward. That's it. And I talk to people all the time, so I know that it's happening. Last question, man, because I know you got to get out of here, and it relates to where you're going. Tell me a little bit about the faith. We talked about the kids' life, but tell me a little bit about what faith means in your life and all this that you're doing.
Faith to me means that we're bringing the invisible to the visible. We're taking ideas, we're taking the compassion, we're making it tangible. We're making it something that you can hold on to. When I show up in faith. I try to be the person that you can really depend on. To me, that's faith. Mm-hmm. To me, being the person that can walk it versus just talk it, that's faith. Mm-hmm. Developing consistency, that's faith. Building champions, that's faith. Mm-hmm. Ironically, one of my coworkers came to me and said, I said, what does it take to be a winner? And immediately they went to naming all these little attributes. And I said, you have to change the mind first. You have to get them to believe they're winners. Mm-hmm. And they looked at me and was like, I never thought of it that way. I said, if you can get them to believe they're a winner, that's what faith is to me. Is I'm calling you a winner, though everything looks like you're losing. I'm calling you a winner, though it looks like you can't get ahead. I'm calling you a winner, even though you know what you got to go home to. When I got you for that hour after school, hour and a half, whatever it is, you're a champion. Yeah. And I'm willing to invest in those champions, even though I may have my own needs, even though I have my own struggles. Faith is knowing that in spite of my struggles, I can help Ronnie out if Ronnie needed a pair of shoes. Yeah. Faith is knowing that it's going to work out. And you looking at me like, how? All I need you to do is show up. That's faith to me. So when you show up, you're showing up knowing, not able to really explain it, but you know it's going to work out. And to me, that's how my faith acts, because I'm just showing up. Yeah. I don't know how this is going to happen. Yeah. I know if I speak it, if I know I keep talking to you enough, if I keep speaking to the king or queen in each and every person. You don't have to be black or white to be a king or queen. Your attitude tells you as such. And so I speak to the king and everybody, the queen and everybody. I let them know that you're valuable, that you're worth something. And that's what faith is. Even though the value may not be seen up front, I speak to the value in all my children and even the adults. That's why I say I take my hat off to teachers. I take my hat off to administrators. I take my hat off to decision makers, because a lot of people don't know what it takes. But my faith teaches me that if I speak to a person and treat them for what they could be, they become that versus treating them for what I see in front of me.
Man, I tell you, people tell me all the time, man, you seem really happy. And I tell people I'm very blessed. And I think I'm speaking for both of us here. I've never been more certain that God has me where I'm supposed to be.
That's it.
When I'm supposed to be there, doing what I'm supposed to do.
That's it.
And even working with the special need, the kids with the disabilities and all of that. I really feel dialed in, and I'm the same way, man. I don't pray for outcomes. I pray, Lord, just put me where I'm supposed to be and give me the strength, the courage, the wisdom, all of those things that I need to be successful for others and myself. Right. And but I know that we've talked about that off camera, and I know that you feel the same way, that you're where you're supposed to be.
That's it.
You're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to do. And that's a pretty good feeling, man. And,
yes, indeed.
That's faith right there.
That's the reward in it right there. Yeah. Knowing that you're on assignment.
Yeah, that's right.
That it all works together.
You're just the messenger, right?
Yeah.
You're just the messenger.
But at the same time, who hopes to deliver?
Yeah.
I'm not just delivering a message of just talking. Yeah. I wanted to show up, and when I see a kid who has greatness in them, I want them, like I brought up Marquise, we call him Keto for short. Yeah. I want him to know that the sky is not the limit. Let's go beyond the sky. But let's do the work. Let's put out. They laughed at me because at one point all I wore were Timberland boots on the job. And they said, "Why do you wear those boots?" I said, "Because I never know where I have to step." And I said, I'm one of those persons who's willing to go knock on doors. Who's willing to look a kid in the eye and say, if you give me the opportunity to help you, I will. But you have to help me help you. And so I'll figure it out for you. Yeah. You give me the room. So I walk into areas where I've had people walk around my truck and I felt threatened sometimes, but I took a deep breath and I took the step of faith. Yeah. And I walked into those areas and I sat on couches. I've looked mothers in the eyes with tears in their eyes, but there's nothing more rewarding to see a kid walk across the stage. We helped the baby graduate. I was looking for this kid for months. And I talked to her mom. Her mom worked in the district. And her mom cried in front of me. I should have left my baby in front of her. And here comes a caveat. She was a white girl. And so because it don't matter to me. And
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
she's working at Wendy's. I pull up. Now, mom told her who I was. I had never seen this kid. Didn't know who she was. When she looked at me, she paused. And she said, "You're him." I said, "I'm he." I said, and then she looked, she said, "You're looking for me?" I said, "I really want a biggie bag," but and I sat back and I looked, I said, "I am looking for you."
Yeah.
She said, "What's my name?" And I didn't say her name on camera, but I said her name. And I said, "I want to help you graduate. Put my number in your phone." And that girl walked across the stage.
That's amazing.
And just to see her with tears in her eyes get her high school diploma.
Yeah.
That's faith.
Yeah.
Being in the right place, being on assignment. Why? You trying to get your little meal. Here comes your help. And you have to be willing to help it. And it was about 9 o'clock that night.
Yeah.
So that's the reward to me, like you said, is knowing I don't really ask for a lot of outcomes, but I'm just willing to do what he asks us to do.
I love it, man. I love it. I know we might get you back in because I could talk to you all day.
I appreciate it.
But I appreciate all the work you're doing, man. You already know that.
Appreciate that.
You're doing the Lord's work, man. And I hope that everybody out there watching this today just soaks it in and let's work together to be more positive and let's think positive about what people in the schools are doing.
Right.
I know that's not perfect, but there's a lot of Kellys out there. There's a lot of people who are doing great work, teachers, administration. So just want to encourage our viewers to look at it from that perspective. Thank you to all of our amazing partners. Without you guys, we can't have these conversations with awesome guys like this. And just God bless everybody out there. And as always, have a champion day.
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Hey, Miss Lou, come visit us, Tom and Wright Granning at Go Mart and On The Go Deli.
Go Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need.
Located at the corner of Highland Boulevard and Highway 61 South in Natchez.
Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff,
where everyone is family.
Guys, Ronnie and Shannon here with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight.
And we're here at our amazing partners, Gregg Veterinary Hospital.
Gregg Veterinary Hospital has been providing comprehensive, reliable, cutting-edge veterinary services to pets in the Miss Lou since 2002.
They welcome pets of all shapes and sizes who are in need of emergency treatment or who require routine medical, surgical, and dental care.
Dr. Gregg and his team offer a long list of services, including in-house laboratory diagnostics, digital x-ray, soft tissue, orthopedic surgery, dental care, extractions, laser surgery, laser therapy, preventative health, and wellness plans.
And if you need grooming and boarding services, they do that too.
So call Gregg Vet today.
Hi, it's Shannon with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. If you like what we're doing, be sure to follow, like, share, and even comment on all our content. Also, visit MissLouChampions.com to sign up for our newsletter and to receive other information, as well as the opportunity to receive some awesome prizes. Thank you, Miss Lou, for your continued support, and as always, have a champion day.
Hey y'all, it's Ronnie and Shannon with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight.
And we want to tell you about our awesome partner, J.E. Hicks Distributing Company, also known as Hicks Chicks.
Hicks Chicks is a local, family-owned food distribution company that has been serving the Miss Lou since 1945. You already know they serve all of your favorite restaurants, but did you know that they are also open to the public?
Hicks Chicks has a variety of food products, including delicious heat and eat options like chicken and dumplings, white bean chicken chili, lasagna, and gumbo. They also carry a wide variety of seafood options like shrimp, crabs, tuna steaks, salmon, and catfish.
And don't forget about their delicious burgers that are already pattied up for you and their amazing dessert options.
So stop by today at 1380 Martin Luther King Jr. Road in Natchez. Hicks Chicks.
Way more than just chicken.
Hey guys, Ronnie Calhoun here with Miss Lou Champion Spotlight. and I want to tell you about our awesome partners, Wardo's Po' Boys. Wardo's was created in honor of Alan Ward Granning III, fondly known by family and friends as Wardo. In 2019, the oldest brother of the tribe passed away unexpectedly. His remaining siblings and loved ones wanted to honor his memory in a special way. In 2022, Ward's family decided to combine the need for a sandwich shop in downtown Natchez with a desire to pay tribute to Ward's love of good friends, good times, and great food. Through blood, sweat, tears, and countless hours of hard work, Wardo's was born. So go visit Wardo's today at 309 North Broadway Street in Natchez, where the po' boys are so good, you'll swear you're in Cajun country.